Chapter 276. The Shock of Return. Therefore, without berserking, this humanoid lightning bolt was only able to support itself for a few moments, before it was smashed by Kangchon, turning into bits of light and disappearing into the void. Who will be next? Looking at the still strong robbing clouds in the sky, Kangchon's eyes gleamed with fighting spirit, and some familiar faces had already surfaced in his mind. Boom! The second humanoid lightning bolt finally descended, and as soon as it appeared, there was a Buddha's light, a huge 8-armed Vajra Buddha suppressing it with unrivaled might and grandeur. Its brother bolt, Little Gold, was surprised. With such an image of appearance and manner of striking, it was definitely Brahma Heart without a doubt. It seems like he met quite a few geniuses in the spirit sealing space. I heard that heavenly demon body of the demon sect also went in. I wonder how they fought. The law enforcement elder's eyes were deep as he carefully watched Kangchon cross the threshold. The appearance of Brahma's heart was expected by Kangchon. He let out a low roar. Still swinging his overlord fist, he met him. Still fighting hard, Kangchon smashed this gigantic 8-armed Vajra Buddha. Unrivaled hegemonic aura erupted from him, his body gradually exuding an aura of only the other. Heavenly Buddha palm, the huge golden palm, came towards Kangchon to suppress him. Brahma Heart's humanoid lightning wasn't blown away by Kangchon's punch. He once again struck out his strongest attack. It was the supreme divine ability of the Buddhist sect, the Heavenly Buddha palm. Boom! Facing this terrifying palm, Kangchon was equally unwilling to show any weakness and blasted out a heaven-tackling hand head-on. The two huge palm prints instantly collided in the sky, simultaneously erupting with unrivaled might. Unfortunately, although Brahma Heart's Heavenly Buddha palm was powerful, it was still no match for the heaven-tackling hand, and was ultimately torn apart by the heaven-tackling hand, and continued to bombard Brahma Heart's humanoid lightning with its residual energy. Boom! Without the slightest surprise, this Brahma Heart's human-shaped lightning was blasted and turned into light and disappeared into the sky. Again, Kangchon stood proudly in the void and roared up to the sky. After killing this humanoid lightning, his aura became even stronger. His unrivaled, hegemonic aura, piercing straight through the sky, shaking the heavens and shaking the earth. Rumble! The heavenly tribulation was obviously angered by Kangchon's arrogant aura, and in the boundless tribulation clouds, huge thunderbolts tumbled, and a piercing lightning bolt emitted a dazzling light, making the entire sky bright. Boom boom! This time 2 consecutive humanoid lightning bolts descended. One of them held a lightsaber, and as soon as the saber came out, it was incomparably mighty, directly cutting out a cross-chop. The other humanoid lightning was very strange. His body was very large, a light dragon. He roared up to the sky, waving his huge tail, directly smashing into Kangchon with unrivaled might. Kangchon's eyes instantly condensed. No need to guess. These two humanoid lightning were Devil Heaven and Dragon Third Prince, which he had expected, as the two supreme powerhouses of the spirit sealing space. They would inevitably be the object of the heavenly tribulation's imitation. Similarly, as defeated men, Kangchon naturally had no fear of Devil Heaven and the Third Prince of the Dragon. The heavenly apocalypse had obviously noticed this problem as well, so it allowed the two to descend together and join forces against him. This had to be said to be a breakthrough, and it seemed that any heavenly apocalypse he would have to cross in the future would have to be subjected to such a siege battle, without any unnecessary nonsense. Kangchon's eyes glazed over as he swung his hegemony fist and charged forward. Devil Heaven and the Third Prince of the Dragon were worthy of being the supreme powerhouses in the spirit sealing space. They were much more powerful than Little Gold and Brahma Heart, and they were still joining forces. Their power was even better. Even Kangchon struggled to gain the upper hand for a while, and in the end, he used a number of powerful divine abilities, such as the heaven-tackling hand and the sublime slash, before he blasted these two human-shaped lightning bolts. However, Kang Chon himself was also injured. This was the first time he had been injured since he crossed the heavenly tribulation. Although it was a minor injury, it was enough to illustrate the power of this heavenly tribulation. Moreover, the heavenly tribulation wasn't finished yet. After demonic heaven and the third prince of the dragon disappeared, the tribulation clouds in the sky simultaneously descended 9 beams of light, from which 9 radiant figures walked out. Indeed, seeing these 9 familiar figures, Kang Chon couldn't help but smile bitterly, but his expression became even more grave between them. These 9 figures were copied by none other than himself. The 9 Kang Tian. In the distance, Little Gold had seen Kang Chon's last tribulation and knew about this, so he wasn't surprised. Only his face was filled with worry. Facing 9 selves, this was the greatest test of the otherworldly heavenly tribulation, as well as the most dangerous. The law enforcement elder's face was also filled with awe. This other heavenly tribulation was worthy of being the strongest other heavenly tribulation in history. I really don't know how the human emperor made it all the way to the top in the first place. I'm afraid that it was a journey of blood and bones paved into the path of the emperor. Boom, 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 boom. Just as the law enforcement elder was sighing, the 9 fake Kang Chon finally struck out. The moment they struck out, they were the 9 heaven-escaping hands, suppressing Kang Chon in his depressed gaze. A few huge palm imprints completely enveloping the entire space, sealing off all of Kang Chon's paths of retreat. In the face of such a powerful attack, Kang Chon smiled bitterly and could only choose to fight hard. The result of the hard fight was that he was blasted into the earth. Boom! Pft! Kang Chon gushed out of the earth and spewed out a mouthful of blood. These 9 humanoid lightning bolts were at the same cultivation level as him, the 7th level of the Yuanying stage, and they would know all the divine abilities he knew. Each one of them was a formidable foe, not to mention the 9 of them coming together. This was what made the heterocosmic heavenly tribulation so terrifying. He had to fight for his life. Otherwise it would be difficult to support him until the end of the tribulation. The 9 false Kang Chon were very powerful, heaven-tackling hands, heaven-breaking, sublime chopping and whatnot, smashing over with no intention of killing himself, causing Kang Chon to lose ground and could only barely support himself. It was a painful ordeal. Kang Chon didn't have the strength to fight back and could only resist their attacks. His body constantly suffered heavy blows, and even if he was as strong as a treasure weapon, he was almost crushed by the blows. This was enough to show the intensity of the battle. Kang Chon didn't even know how he managed to hold on. He was finally beaten to the point where his internal bones were broken by 10, and he didn't know how much blood was spewed out. The whole thing had a tragic look of a bruised face and swollen nose. However, he still managed to persevere and successfully stepped into the Yuanying stage and was still at the 7th level of the Yuanying stage. Yuanying stage. After the heavenly tribulation dissipated, Kang Chon collapsed on the ground, drenched in blood. His whole body was exhausted. His injuries were very tragic. Looking at the clear blue sky, his mind was filled with thoughts, and a memory surfaced in his mind. He still remembered that in the Wong family's martial arts arena, he defeated Wong Fei in a single battle and revived his name as a genius. He also remembered that under the conspiracy of the Lin family, he and his grandfather both fled miserably and finally killed the Jidan stage Lin Beishan. He also remembers that when he stepped out of the Heavy Iron City, he made a name for himself in one battle at the Fendu martial arts arena. A scene from the past came to his mind, as if it was yesterday all over again. Now, he was no longer the small foundation establishment stage cultivator who had just left Heavy Iron City, but had already become a Yuanying stage powerhouse. In terms of strength, the old city lord of Fendu and the king of Zhenan, who he had been surprised as a world-class powerhouse at the beginning, were no longer his rivals. Time flowed like water, and in the blink of an eye, More than 10 years had passed. From a small cultivator at the foundation establishment stage, Kang Tian had grown into a strong person at the 7th level of the Yuanying stage, and his identity was even more extraordinary, being an inner disciple of the Heavenly Tao sect, and also the personal disciple of the Law Enforcement Elder. This is the world of cultivation. Wait until my cultivation is higher in the future. Perhaps I will spend decades in a single retreat, Kang Tian sighed. Brother, how are you doing? An anxious voice came. It was Xiao Jin, who ran over with a worried face and helped him up. No need to worry, he's fine. He'll be fine after recuperating for a while. The figure of the Law Enforcement Elder descended from the sky and landed beside Kang Tian. He looked at Kang Tian with a face full of relief and nodded. Not bad, didn't let my master down. But you have to bear in mind, in the future, you must choose the right place for your tribulation by yourself. Because after the tribulation is the time when you are at your weakest, and in case you are discovered by the enemy, it's very dangerous. Kang Tian's heart flinched at these words, and he respectfully said, Yes, Master. The Law Enforcement Elder was right. Every future tribulation would be very dangerous. Even if he managed to cross the heavenly tribulation, his body would be very weak. That would give the enemy an opportunity to take advantage of it, and it would definitely be very dangerous. It seems that the next time he advances to the out-of-body stage, he needs to find a secluded place. Kang Tian thought in his heart, he couldn't possibly ask the Elder of Law Enforcement to protect him every time. After all, the Elder of Law Enforcement couldn't protect him for the rest of his life, and in the future, he would still have to face it on his own. What's more, it was not at all clear when the next tribulation would be, where he would be able to choose a place in advance. It could only be based on the actual situation. Now that you have broken through the Yuanying stage, you can also leave the Heavenly Tao sect and choose your own adventures. I've already arranged the identity of the inner disciple for you. When you arrive at Dark Gold Peak, someone will naturally inform you. The Law Enforcement Elder finished speaking and once again took Kang Tian and Little Gold, and both of them instantly moved away. Dark Gold Peak, one of the 5 great wondrous peaks of the Heavenly Tao sect, the base camp of the Law Enforcement lineage, and also the place where Kang Tian lived and cultivated. This huge peak was very huge, towering into the clouds, with countless palaces sitting in it. And between these palaces, a Law Enforcement disciple came and went in an endless stream. Suddenly, some people were taken aback when they saw the Law Enforcement Elder descending from the sky with Kang Tian and Little Gold. That was the Law Enforcement Elder, and it was the first time many people had seen them. In the past, they were only known but not seen. After all, the high and mighty Law Enforcement Elder was not something that anyone could see. At once, there was a gasp of surprise from above the Dark Gold Peak, followed by everyone bowing to greet them. Heavens! It's the Law Enforcement Elder. I've actually met the Law Enforcement Elder. Greetings to Elder Law Enforcement. On the Dark Gold Peak, a figure rushed out of the palace and bowed to the Law Enforcement Elder, who descended from the sky. Whether they were inner disciples, true disciples, or some holy sons, they all bowed with incomparable respect at this moment. Boy, is this the might of the Master? Kang Tian and Little Gold were extremely shocked when they saw this scene. As one of the 4 strongest elders of the Heavenly Tao sect, the Law Enforcement Elder had an incomparably high status, second only to the sect master. Of course, the reason that made the crowd respect him was still because of his powerful strength. In this flood continent where the strong were honored, strength was everything, and it was precisely because of his strong strength that the Elder of Law Enforcement was able to sit in the position of Elder of Law Enforcement. If there was no strength, on what basis would he be able to do this position? Even if he sat up, he would be pulled down. Kang Tian and Little Gold followed behind the Law Enforcement Elder, his eyes scanning the surroundings as he saw the scene of 10,000 cultivators worshipping together for the first time. These law enforcement disciples, who were respectfully worshipping, were all doing so from the bottom of their hearts admiring the law enforcement elder to the extreme. Who are those two? Surprisingly, they can follow behind the law enforcement elder. Isn't that the law enforcement elder's personal disciple, Kangchon, who was only taken in 10 years ago? I didn't realize that he had already advanced to the 7th level of the Yuanying stage. Who is that youth who looks somewhat similar to Kangchon? Among the crowd, many people secretly whispered, sizing up Kangchon and Little Gold. At this moment, the elder of law enforcement was in the limelight, causing Kangchon and Little Gold, who were following him, to also receive the gaze of the crowd, and naturally, there were many people talking about them. Before entering the spirit sealing space, Kangchon's astonishing results in the Forged One Hall test had already made him famous in Dark Gold Peak. So many people were secretly concerned about him. And now that 3 years had passed, Kangchon had reappeared at Dark Gold Peak and had also advanced to the 7th level of the Yuanying stage, which caused many people to speculate about what level of results he would achieve in the Lixuan Hall test now.